Buddy, how's it going? Connor the personal trainer here, and today we have a video on the fat loss pyramid. So the idea here is that everything starting at the bottom of the pyramid and working your way up is more important than all of the things above it. And like anything in life, there are going to be certain things that we do, if you've heard of the Pareto principle, where most of your results, 80% of your results, are going to come from only 20% of what you're doing. So essentially what we want to do, and one of the core philosophies of my training approach, is to always try to do the smallest thing that will have the biggest impact. And that goes for habit formation as well as when it comes to how you're actually designing and putting together your program. All of us have competing interests and a lot going on in our lives. So we want to do the things that will create the biggest impact first in order to be as efficient as possible, to get as good results as possible, and to make what we're doing as sustainable as possible. So now we'll get into each layer of the pyramid, starting at the bottom with strategic nutrition. Now you're probably not surprised to see, but strategic nutrition is at the bottom. So the idea there is just simply that you can work out extremely hard at the gym. You can burn a lot of calories, but if you just go home and you're starving because you worked out so hard, and you eat an entire bag of chips and wash it down with 2 beers, you are definitely going to consume more calories than you actually burn in the gym. A really hard workout, say you're lifting weights, will maybe burn 250, 300 calories if you're lucky. A bag of chips and a beer could easily be over 1,000 calories. So you could be moving in the wrong direction. And although you're getting fitter, you could still be storing fat around your waist, around your thighs, everything like that. All the spots that you're trying to improve upon. So the idea there is quite simple. Number one, you need to have some way to control the amount of food that you're eating. Calories do count regardless of what anybody will tell you. A quick aside on that, all of the different diets, especially with keto, you'll see they say calories don't matter when you're on keto. But that's because there are physiological tricks happening where by not consuming carbohydrates, you're really reducing your hunger, and naturally you want to eat less when you're in that kind of a state where you're really, regulating your blood sugar and everything like that. So what ends up happening is you end up eating less calories unconsciously. But calories always matter regardless of what anybody tells you. And if they tell you they don't and they're selling a diet, well, you can put that together, 2 and 2 together. Something's going on there. So whether it's the way you're eating is going to cause you to unconsciously eat less calories, or whether you're actually tracking calories, or if you're doing a portion control system like the hand measurement or cup measurement system, you do need to be monitoring your calories. The second thing is you do need to be eating an adequate amount of protein. And the idea there is that protein is going to keep you feeling very full. So that goes back to what we were just talking about. It's going to help you regulate your hunger levels, and you're going to end up unconsciously eating less. So that means eating less without having to use a bunch of willpower and white knuckling it and fighting against your hunger. And it's always a good idea not to try to fight against your hunger, because hunger is always going to stay there. It can be in the fight forever. It's not going to get tired, and it's always going to win in the end. So we need to have a plan. We need to be eating lots of protein. The other thing we need to be eating is lots of fibrous vegetables. They're going to give you all of the micronutrients that your body will be craving, which again will help you to keep your hunger levels reasonable. And then more directly, the fiber is actually going to slow down the absorption of food in your stomach. It's going to help keep you full. And it's very important as well to keep you full. So there's obviously a whole bunch more that you can get into with that. You want to time your carbohydrates around workouts. You can even get into all sorts of fancy stuff like calorie cycling and keto and all these different things. There's a million different things you can do with nutrition. But at the foundation, you need to be controlling how much you're eating. You need to be making sure that you're earning your carbohydrates and eating them at the right times. You need to be getting lots of protein and lots of vegetables. So that is strategic nutrition. After strategic nutrition, we get into strength training. And the idea here is that unlike the other forms of training, strength training will help you to build muscle mass, and muscle is burning calories all of the time. So a simple analogy for this is with our cars, a lot of the time we want to shop for a fuel efficient car. If you care about the environment or you just want to keep your costs down, you want a fuel efficient car. Well, our bodies are naturally going to become as efficient as possible because they've been very well designed through evolution over tens of thousands of years to store fat extremely effectively and to stop burning calories or minimize calorie burn as much as possible so that we can make it to our next meal, because meals weren't always just available at every drive-through around the corner. So the idea with strength training is we want to do the opposite. Our bodies want to be efficient. They want to be like a hybrid vehicle or an electric vehicle, and burn very little energy. And what we want to do is make our body into essentially a muscle car. You want to build a bigger engine with more horsepower. And then once you have that bigger engine, whether you're just idling and going down the street or just standing there, or you're actually racing down the street, whatever you do, you're always going to burn more fuel. Just like if you're driving some sort of, muscle car, even when you're just sitting there idling, you're burning more fuel. You're driving down the street slowly, you're burning more fuel. So the strength training is the first and most important kind of physical training, because you're permanently building a bigger engine. And then when you're doing metabolic training, HIIT, cardio, or just standing around or even sleeping, you're going to burn more calories. The other thing is, if you're not doing any strength training and you're actually losing muscle, your engine is getting smaller and more efficient, which means that it takes less and less food to basically have you going in the wrong direction when it comes to your fat loss. And it also means that you're, again, not hitting the peak potential of calorie burn you could get from metabolic training, HIIT, and cardio. So strength is the bedrock of actually being able to live a lifestyle where you can still eat a reasonable amount of food while also actually ending up losing weight or being leaner. And of course, that goes hand in hand with your nutrition. You can't just lift weights and expect everything to be all good. Now, above that, we're getting into the things where if you're just starting, I recommend starting only with strategic nutrition and strength training and taking that as far as you can until you need to add more. And then when it is time to add more and you are starting to slow down in your progress, we're going to bring in metabolic training. And the idea with metabolic training is this is your things like your Tabatas and your circuits and everything like that. So the idea there is you are still going to be doing a little bit of strength work, whether that's body weight or weights or any form at all. And what you're going to do is you're going to decrease the intensity or decrease the weight, but you're going to increase the density, meaning you're going to do more work in less time. So think your classic circuits, especially, it could be doing things. You'll see lots of these on apps where you're doing push-ups and then you're doing squats and you're doing mountain climbers back to back to back with very little rest. Very popular form of training. One of the reasons it's so popular and the reason it's beneficial for fat loss is you get essentially 48 hours of elevated metabolism after doing this, or up to 48 hours, I should say. So that means for the next 2 days, essentially after doing this kind of training, you're going to be burning more calories. And while that effect doesn't last forever, like when you build muscle through strength training, it is a pretty significant effect. So you're going to have a significant calorie burn, not only during the workout, but also for the following 48 hours. The other thing that's going to happen is this kind of training is going to get a little bit of lactic acid and hydrogen ions and all those different things in your muscles where you get that muscle burning feeling. And what ends up happening is when you get lactate in your muscle, that is the signal for a hormonal cascade, a big chain effect of things that will happen, that the end result being lipolysis, or the breakdown of fats. So your body is going to break down stored fats and burn them both for fuel during the exercise as well as in that 48-hour window following. So it's very beneficial. Again, if you don't do your nutrition properly, you can out eat all of your hard work, no problem. And if you're not doing your strength training, you're not basically building a bigger engine permanently. But metabolic training after that is an excellent way to ramp up your fat loss and calorie burn and allow you to continue to eat a reasonable amount while still being in a caloric deficit and continuing to lose body fat. And then that brings us to our next form, which is HIIT. And the benefits of HIIT are very similar to metabolic training. So HIIT is high intensity interval training. Now, when I say HIIT, HIIT is a word that can be a little bit misused. When the study showed that it showed benefits for fat loss, it became very, very trendy. It was in all of the magazines and everything. HIIT is the new way to train. There's all these programs where all you do is HIIT and you work out 3 times a week for 10 to 20 minutes and you're going to be ripped. And all the marketing machine took HIIT as a buzzword and went a bit crazy with it. Now, a lot of the things you'll see a HIIT spin class where a class will be 45 minutes to an hour. When I talk about HIIT, I'm talking about the traditional HIIT training that was actually in those original studies. And that style of HIIT training is pretty intense. Usually it's going to be 10 to 20, 25 minutes tops. And it's extremely demanding. So it's very, very draining, very, very high intensity. So we're talking about things here like doing interval sprints, whether that's on a bike or if you're just doing it outdoors, like running, literally running sprints at a track or something like that. There's like prowler sled pushes, and you can do wall balls, and there's a whole bunch of things. You can do body weight HIIT too, but we're talking about truly going like max, and then you have a shorter period of recovery where maybe you're jogging or just moving lightly. And the benefits of HIIT are very similar to metabolic training, where you're getting the 48-hour window of excess calorie burn, you're burning calories during the workout, and you're also getting those hormonal signals so that you are stimulating lipolysis and breaking down those fats. So that's all great, but the downside of HIIT is that it's extremely draining on your central nervous system, which means that it's hard to recover from, not only muscularly, but also on your nervous system. So if you're a busy individual who drinks too much caffeine and doesn't necessarily sleep enough, when you add HIIT in, it can be very taxing and draining. And that's why, although it's extremely effective, it does need to be used in moderation, and it can't form the bedrock of a good program. And then last of all, we have cardio at the very top of the pyramid. Now, again, with the marketing machines out there, all the magazines and everything, they loved selling the idea that you don't need to do cardio, because a lot of people are busy professionals, and a lot of those markets, the main fitness markets, are urban markets where people are very busy and living in cities, and they are feeling cramped for time. So the marketing machine loved to tell people that they don't need to do cardio. All you need to do is HIIT, and you're going to be totally fine, because cardio does take longer. It takes time. But cardio is very beneficial as well if everything else is in place already. What cardio will do is you do burn quite a large number of calories while you're doing the workout. The downside is that as soon as you're done, you stop burning any excess calories and just go right back to your normal baseline. So you're not getting the permanent benefits of strength training, and you're not getting the 48-hour window of extremely high calorie burn from metabolic training or HIIT. So cardio won't have quite the same peak intensity benefit for fat loss, but what it does do is it allows you to keep your calories a little bit higher. And for some of us, like for me personally, I like to do a lot of cardio because I find it very beneficial for me mentally. It helps to keep my mind very clear, and it helps me perform well. And the other benefit is when you're doing all these other forms of training, your cardio is going to be more of a recovery form of cardio, but it's going to allow blood flow to get into your muscles, and that's going to allow them to clear waste tissues from the metabolic activity going on from all the exercise you're doing. And it's going to help you to recover a little bit quicker while also burning more calories. And then you're, of course, getting the heart health benefits, the mental health benefits, the neuroprotective benefits. So there's tons of great things about cardio as well. And if you're doing everything else and you do have time for it, or if it's something that you find very enjoyable, it definitely has a place in a good fat loss program. So that's the fat loss pyramid. The last thing I will say is, of course, if you're not sleeping at all, and if you're so stressed that you're not able to make rational decisions about what you should be eating and how you should be structuring your day, of course, those come before any and all of this. But that to me just comes down to basic self-care. And while, a lot of people do need to improve in that area, I wanted to, for the scope of this video, get more into the specific tactics that you can use to actually directly lose the fat. Whereas with the sleep and stress management, those are the things that you need to have a handle on in order to allow you to even start to work on all of these things. And that does play an important role in a fat loss program. But for the scope of this video, again, I just wanted to get into the direct tactics, because I know a lot of people just want to sink their teeth into something. They don't want to tell me, or they don't want me to tell them rather, that they should take a nap and work a little bit less. Nobody wants to hear that. So I hope you found this helpful. Do keep in mind to take good care of yourself, do manage your stress, and try to do it in healthy ways. But when it comes to fat loss training, when you've got that all set up and you really just want to sink your teeth into something, get your nutrition on point. Make sure you're not eating too much. Make sure you're getting your protein in. Make sure you've got your leafy greens and veggies in. Do some strength training at least 2 times a week, preferably 3. Add your metabolic training once you've got that down, anywhere from 1 to 2 times a week. If you still have time and you still have energy, add 1 HIIT session a week. And again, if you feel like you can do more than 1 HIIT session a week, you're probably not doing real HIIT. I'm talking about all out intervals, really, really hard. You'll get big effects, but it's very draining. I mean, if you're a professional athlete, sure, do it more. But if you're working a job like the rest of us and you're doing all this other training, you probably should only be doing it once a week, in my professional opinion. And then last of all, your cardio. This is the icing on the cake. Throw it in whenever you have time, but make sure you're getting the things below it in first. Now, you can definitely pair strategic nutrition and strength training with only cardio if cardio is something that you already do regularly, but you need to have these two at the base of the pyramid no matter what. And then I definitely recommend, if you do have time and you're recovering well enough after, a few weeks or a month or two, start to try to add some metabolic training and HIIT in, even if it's at the expense of a little bit of cardio, if you're finding that your fat loss isn't going as quickly as you want to, because you will get a bigger calorie burn from these two forms of exercise. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope I wasn't too long-winded. There's a lot that I could say on all of these topics, but I do want to try to keep it somewhat concise. So if you do have any questions, you can email me at highlanderperformance@gmail.com. And yeah, I wish you all the best. I hope you're staying healthy out there. I know it's a little bit tough times with COVID for a lot of people around the world. So I wish everyone well. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. All right, take care, guys.